website.
Hmm?
Website.
Oh.
It's I think right after.
Yeah. Pull it up.
I wish there was a similar situation with the computer.
Was there? Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, you could do that though if you had to plug into the laptop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those group photos of Bellamy turned out good, but they did not want to take a picture. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Hi, I'm in a meeting right now, so I can't say anywhere. It's a big table, bigger than.
Hey, Gail.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good, how about you? Again, is that?
What are you doing?
Glad to see you. Good.
Nice to see you. Happy Monday. Yeah.
Sure, we'll go with that.
I don't think I ever met you in person. I'm Kirsten. I've seen you on the
Kirsten,
screen last year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, nice to meet you. It's good to see everybody's on.
Good.
You know, but yeah, that's more than
Yes, yes. How are you? I'm doing well. Good, thanks.
Hi, Miss Harper.
Hello there.
How are we?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And what student do we have today?
I'm Cassidy Thompson.
Hey, Cassidy. How are you? Seeing you on several
If
emails.
it's okay with you all, I would love to invite you to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yes, this is
I don't
lonely
know
over
why you're
here.
sitting back there.
There are so many
I don't know why y'all decided to do that.
I didn't know. Well, thank you. Thank
We
you.
might have another student coming as well.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, he'll be here in like maybe 10 minutes,
Who is?
15 minutes.
So it's
Which student is?
Salmon.
I emailed Simon a couple weeks back, and he had an email, so good, I'm glad.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
busy and he said he wasn't gonna make it, but then he was like, text her and was like,
Yeah, I mean, he said he's 20 minutes away, so I don't know if he's coming or not. He hasn't responded yet.
I
He might.
sent him an invite to be on the superintendent's advisory committee, and I just hadn't heard back from him, so I wanted to touch base and see if he did have interest in it or if he would.
showing someone.
For your information, all the data, thank you.
Oh, good, okay, I did not know if you got it, because sometimes it goes like firewalls, like I have
We always
firewalls,
had
and I'm
mutual
sure you guys
friends.
do too, but yeah, awesome.
So we
Yeah.
just saw each other at random
Yeah,
events.
I
and
had it,
last
I
year
just,
we had a
you
lot
know,
of
had to pull it.
So
What is it that the two of you competed in? What was it?
Just walk her, we
we
have
for class president.
Or after
Who
five,
got
and
it?
he won. A minute or two.
But that's okay. He was very sweet about it, and he
I
has
love
me
it.
like filling him sometimes.
I love it. Yeah, Caress, so that you know, Cassidy and Simon are like best buds.
Oh,
I remembered it just a minute ago, but they both ran for class president.
oh,
And
nice.
he got it, but she fills in for him sometimes. So if ever, because sometimes their schedules are different, but
Different,
sometimes
yeah.
the same.
Okay.
So if ever,
I
Cassidy
will,
probably be also
Cassidy,
another
actually, I'll
person
send you an
to.
email too.
So here you can check that out.
Hey, Thad. How are we
Like,
today?
you guys wanna-
Been one of those Mondays?
Feels like all those Mondays are like that.
I feel like this one for me though, it really flew by. Like it hasn't been a Monday.
Yeah, it went by fast, but it was not the easiest of days.
So my complaint today was, like, I feel like I was busy all day, but I don't think I was productive all day.
Ah.
And that feels like Monday to me, all, you know, like I'm really busy, but I don't feel productive.
Gotcha. So Rory is on her last week of intercession from Coddington because they're year round. So I took my lunch with her today. So it was like a nice, like,
Well, that's a
good
nice
solid
break.
hour with like some kitty goodness. And then like by the time I went back to work, I had so many other little things I had to do before I came here.
Yeah.
So like when I looked up, I was like, oh, time to go.
It's already, yeah, it's already, well, that's nice though.
That is true.
Just to let you guys know, mics are live. We are live. We're just gonna wait on
Before the play.
give some more members a minute or two more to kind of roll in.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I think. Do you have those slides?
The what?
The slides that we share for about the meaningful student voice, the ones we've had before at the board meetings? I can send them
I
to
can
you.
pull them up and let's see. Or have you?
Yeah, I got them. I can send them to you right here, real quick.
First, we get them on, can you refresh that page?
I certainly can.
Just so that,
Okay.
Are they the ones that you have for the whole board
Oh.
too?
Yeah. Because he doesn't have, his parents are using the car, so.
okay, well, no, Simon can't make it.
Yeah.
Well, tell
If
him
he
thank
tunes
you.
in, we'll say hey to him. on the
Yeah,
live
tell him you can tune in and tell him thank you.
We'll be here tomorrow.
Yes, we have a policy to pass.
Yes,
Exciting.
it is exciting. Makes me nervous, too.
Don't be nervous. You good?
Did you just send it to me?
Yes. I just forwarded to our last email and. And you don't have to.
Correct, and the agenda item is showing in yellow. What does that mean?
I'll have to go.
Basically, this
and-
one.
It's only showing on my screen.
It's not unpublished. It's not published.
That's why it's not showing there.
I think the weather changed.
Yeah.
It really did.
My
Yeah.
body feels it.
It's way colder outside now than it was this morning.
That's
No,
kind of
isn't it great?
It is, like, suddenly I wasn't
Didn't
super
mind it,
prepared.
but I can feel it in my body today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've been feeling it for a couple of days in my sinuses.
These.
I've been sick. There's a lot of stuff going around. I came back from travel in early September with pneumonia. I never had pneumonia. Never had pneumonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's something going around the sinuses. Yeah. COVID
It
keeps hitting your
go
sinus.
through.
Have some people, that's like their major symptom, sinus pressure.
Ms. Walker, if you're ready.
I'm ready when you are.
All right. Chase has us live, so we're good to go.
We still have other germs, remember? Yeah, I was like so crazy, isn't it?
But it's not unusual for this time of year to
Oh, is it? Allergies, maybe.
Okay, everyone, we are live. Thank you very much for attending, and welcome again for your and thank you for your dedication to EDI and New Hanover County Schools. So I won't keep us too long because I really love to get to that last one there, Q&A, Malcolm. But I would like to add one thing to the agenda. Where did you want that place, student voice?
Under the EDI website.
EDI website. Okay, so we're going to place agenda item under EDI website entitled Student Voice, just so you guys can keep up with what's on the screen. Okay, so what we got? EDI. Okay. EDI website. Go.
Yep.
You want to get So just as Mr. Johnson's walking up there, I know last month we talked about one of the things we would do was put together that website and make sure we have our definitions and where we're working from and start building, getting that framework and everything put up there. So I'm going to take it over to Mr. Malcolm because my division worked with him to collaborate and get his website up and running. Not complete, but we do have something solid there
Thank
for
you,
now.
Chris.
All right, so the teacher in me has to do some housekeeping. And the first thing every teacher does besides write the learning target and the agenda on the date on the board is take attendance. I want to know who's in the room because I see some faces that I haven't met before. So if we could just start a brief introduction with Ms. Siberry and we could work our way around the table.
Yes, sir. Better late than never. I'm Kamika Siberry. I currently work at DC Virgo Preparatory Academy Lab School, which is under with partnership with New Hanover County Schools, and we are under the UNC system, UNC school system. All right, pass it on.
Hi, I'm Cassidy Thompson. I'm a junior at Hoggard High School. I've been a part of the Student Voice Initiative, which some of you might know some about. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Shala Harper. I'm a special education teacher at Trask Middle School, and I'm one of the adult / accomplice / ally / mom friend, all those things up under one. Here, thanks for having us.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kirsten Kynes, and I'm a community member and volunteer on the EDI committee and a faculty member at UNC Chapel Hill.
Hi, my name is Gail Tabor, and I am a community member that is a part of the EDI committee. I am a church planter, planting a church called SALT, Inclusive Methodist Community in Monkey Junction, and I'm also the pastor of Church on Tap. We meet in a local brewery.
I'm Sean Lamb. I'm a community member and stakeholder. I have 3 little ones in New Hanover County School System. And I've been on the EDI from its inception, mainly working on STEM and equity and special education. And super supportive of all things EDI.
That's true.
Yep. And I work for GE. Yep.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Walker. I am the current vice chair of the school board and chair of the EDI committee, along with my Hugh McManus, who is not here right now. He had a conflict, but he is sorry to miss. I think I've been EDI chair for 2 years now, and I love doing this work, and I think we could do a lot of good as we get good and going. I think we're on our way, having Malcolm here.
Hi, I'm Lina Espinosa, Assistant Principal of Forest Hills Elementary. I've been here since the beginning when we started our EDI committee, volunteering and helping the way I can.
I'm Chris Cludd, community member, parent, and stakeholder. Those are my primary roles here, and then I happen to also work for the school district in communication and outreach division.
I'm Thad Adams. I'm Assistant Director of Maintenance Operations. I think it's going to my second year. Yeah, second year on the EDI committee.
Awesome. Alvin Johnson, Chief Equity Diversity Inclusion Officer. Really happy to see some familiar faces and meet some new faces as we take on this work. So back to the agenda, EDI website. As promised, last committee meeting, we took a look at some definitions and how New Hanover County Schools is going to define equity, diversity, and inclusion, because that was very important as we just hold ourselves accountable. So I just want to show you those definitions and show you the current EDI website. So another plug for New Hanover County Schools Communication Outreach Department. They did a phenomenal New Hanover County Schools Insight video, and that was their first guest as the Chief EDI Officer. So shout out to the Communications Outreach Office. So when you click on divisions, we now have a tab. To my understanding, we didn't have a tab. All right, small gains, we celebrate small wins. Visibility. So here you will find all of my contact information, the video, and as you scroll down, the most important piece, New Hanover County School defines the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion as the following. All right, equity, the pursuit of creating an educational culture that proactively centers all student and staff instructional content, professional development, communications, and policies and procedures. New Hanover County Schools seeks to provide all students with learning environments that promote high-quality education for all students. Now, I do recall from our last meeting, I asked for feedback, and I'm not sure if the member is here, but she wanted to make sure we brought in communications and facilities, because that was not previously seen. Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was, Caressa and I worked diligent just to make sure we had that embedded. Diversity, the representation of all varied identities and differences, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, origin, visible and invisible disabilities, learning styles, linguistics, etc., collectively and as individuals. Inclusion, establishing a culture of belonging by actively inviting the contribution and participation of all educational stakeholders, students, families, educators, staff, administrative leadership. All students and staff can be equally valued, treated with respect, and provided with a fair learning and development opportunities. We like?
Yeah.
All right. So that concludes just our website update. And I'm sorry, really quick. Some few other changes communication outreach team made were the sidebar. Some quick links to all the work that the district has done in the past is right here on one page. I know before there were some many links that we had to click within the page, but everything is sourced here, and we'll be working actively to keep it updated. While I'm here, I want to jump the gun a little bit and loop in student voice. All right, we're going to change this right here to New Hanover County Schools student voice, but this is where you all will have ownership. All right, so this tab is you all's responsibility to partner with the EDI department, communication and outreach, to what does that website look like for you all? Is this somewhere where you want to house your policy, any things that you have upcoming, any projects you're working on? That's where we want to house that. So anybody in the district can look and see the work of the EDI committee in our subgroups like Student Voices. All right.
That's huge. I'm just
I
saying.
know, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Great, that is awesome.
So, the meat, parent selection update. So right now we do want to take some time.
Were you adding student voice under EDI website?
yeah.
Yes, I
That's what
did.
say.
I apologize.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bro.
All right, switching gears. So the real item 3 is going to be our student voices update. A part of when Dr. Casey Smith, part of her departure, she sent me an email just explicitly asking me, how am I going to show up for student voices? What are some things that I'm going to do to ensure that I show up? And one of the things that were mentioned was ensuring that we have a direct line of communication between the EDI office and student voices. So I had an awesome opportunity after church on Sunday to talk with Ms. Harper, where we established on our Google platform, it's called Spaces. So there's a student voice space where all student voice members, myself, Ms. Harper, Ms. Clegg, where all of our strategizing, brainstorming, planning is going to take place in this one hub. Instead of filtering through different email chains, trying to figure out where we stopped off, and especially when there's a change of command or a change of membership, any student or any personnel that we add to this chat will have access to all those files and it's housed in one place, which is super central to streamlining the work of EDI. Another update is I want to pass it over to Ms. Harper and Ms. Cassidy to take some time to make sure their voices are heard, because I can't speak to the work that they're doing because the work was started way before I got here, and I'm just here just to support them. So your mics are ready to go if you just want to speak from there. It's up to you guys.
Okay, could you share the slide?
Yeah, it's the next one. Yep.
Full screen?
So these are a few visuals of just what student voice is and kind of some of our goals. So expression, consultation, presence and participation, partnership, activism, and leadership. And you can go on to the next slide. And here's just another visual for what effective student voice looks like versus things like tokenism, decoration, and manipulation. So our goal is to be at the top of that ladder. And then you go to the next slide. So here are just some goals in just what effective student voice looks like. They'd be a safe place for students to express themselves, express their ideas, just being open to others' ideas, being aware of the unique backgrounds and challenges and just all the things that come into, I don't know, just all the unique parts of every person. Being honest and transparent and just willing to see things from a different perspective. And continuing off of that, lasting change, true diversity, participation and collaboration, all those things you see up there make a student voice structure useful or effective and just help us to effectively share our voices and feel heard. And then go on to the next slide. So, and this is just an example of just some ways that adult allies can partner with us, and accomplices is a new word we've been using for adult allies, just work with us. So yeah, we're super excited. Tomorrow is the second reading of this policy we're proposing to just implement more means, more ways for students to be involved in decision making, because we are the primary stakeholders of all these decisions that the school board makes, and we want to be a part of that. We want to be in the conversation, and we want to be really effectively heard. So a lot of work has been put into this by Dr. Smith, Ms. Harper, all of the students that have been a part of it. Unfortunately, I'm the only student who could make it today, but there are a lot of people who've been working behind the scenes, working to make this possible, and we're just really excited. So tomorrow's the big day where the policy will be voted on. So yeah.
And that was awesome, Cassidy. I didn't want to speak and do any of that slide because I really wanted to show the work that these students did was the work that they did. The conversations that we had were conversations that they built upon, and they were their ideas. I mean, everything that you see in that slide, you know, Casey and I, you know, worked hard to get stuff together, but all of this was their voice. And that's why it's really, really important that we have adult allies and accomplices who can sit back and hear them, just not hearing them to reply, but to hear them and think about what they're going through and remember what they had when they, or didn't have when they were students, so that they can get all the things that they need. So we really appreciate all the support and the love and everything, so.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Before you end, what's
Yes.
the difference between an ally and an accomplice?
So the difference between an ally and accomplice is this. An ally is somebody who's like, oh, bless your heart. I'll pray for you. We'll be there when you need us,
I'll
okay?
post a flyer.
What do you need? I'll put up a flyer. I'll send out an email. But an accomplice is that person who is also getting the charge, right? So me and her in the car, I'm driving and she's in the car, we get pulled over, I'm speeding, she's speeding, whatever. We're both in trouble because we should not have been speeding, right? She's my accomplice. We're in it together. So we're just really hoping that we have adult accomplices who are ready to get their feet dirty in a good, positive, nice, kind, loving way, but at the same time, make that change. It's going to be effective for all students.
In the words of the late John Lewis, good trouble.
Good trouble.
All right, and that's a part of the work here. We students and anyone who's in support of EDI work, we have allies all around the world. We have allies everywhere. But what we need in this space right here is accomplices. Which leads me to that. Did you have something?
When you're done, I would just like to make a
Which
comment.
leads me to this next point of how I would love for us to leverage the EDI committee. And that's to one, talk about opening up our application process for the EDI board committee to welcome in student voices. Because what that looks like, instead of student voices coming straight from the school to the board meetings, they could come here for the prep, the practice, the research, to prepare. Because the one thing I don't want any of us, like especially our students, to show up to our Board of Education without doing the research, without looking at what they're proposing from multiple different lenses and having so many stakeholders like we have here to give their feedback. And that's important. So I wanted to get in the habit of having our student voices represented here prior to them going up in front of the school board. Because when they're getting in front of the school board, it's merely just a presentation with minimum feedback. Here, we can actually become accomplices, and we can look at language, we can look at our experiences, because we're tapping what Ms. Sidbury did for us, especially making sure that we added facilities to our definition. It gives space for individuals like you, because you have an experience that is needed. We all have these student experiences, and you are the student. So it's very important to have, to solve complex problems with as many diverse perspectives and experiences at the table. So I know I'm springing it on you. We didn't talk about it first, but I would love to usher in student voices as a regular part of this programming. That way we can all walk into our board meetings just super prepared and ready to support you. Cool? All right, so let's move on.
I just want to say one thing.
Oh, yes.
It's okay. I would just want to say, as a board member who will be, voting on this tomorrow night, this is a big deal. I really do think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
To have student voice finally in the fold, on an agenda if needed, and give a space for you guys, especially on our committees, because that's what's been missing, I think. As I sit on committees or I watch committees, I feel like there's not enough student voice. So, it's a big deal.
Yes.
I'm excited.
We're excited.
And then I know Cassidy's here, but we did mention the other students who've been a
Yes.
part of this work, and I just want to recognize them and call out their names. And you guys let me know if I miss anyone. Preston Hargrove at CTEC, Benji Caney at Laney. We had Isaiah Singleton over at Ashley who graduated. Tanea Toon at Laney. Who am I missing?
Salmon Bond.
Salmon at Harger, Megan Lanzi.
Did you say Preston?
Yep.
Okay.
And Sarah Francis.
And Sarah.
Butler.
Sarah Francis Butler, who graduated from Hanover, and then Lucy Dimmick at Hanover as well.
I think so. There were a few other students who were less involved. There was a group of 19 of us.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
So for all the students who, if you're watching and you participated in this and you put your hands on this and your time and efforts into this, thank you, students, for
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. All right. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming. Parent selection, the parent work group committee. The application has went live, and it closes on the 10th. So what I want to do today is actually convene our selection committee. And this merely volunteer. If you would like to volunteer to be a part of the committee that selects the parent work group, we can do it as simple, raise your hand. And Chris can write down your names, and then we can just talk separately about what that looks like in reconvening another meeting just to go through that process via Zoom, so it doesn't have to be in person. Because I know we have a lot of meetings, but I do want to do that as soon as possible, because after application closes on the 10th,
Applications closed.
so we'll be meeting the week of the 10th. So if your schedule is pretty open or flexible within that week, I would love to have you. We don't have a minimum, and I don't think we have a maximum. So if you'd like to be a part, just a show of hands.
Are you planning to meet like during daytime or more
No,
like?
No,
this
I
time?
think after 5. That work for 5? After 5? After 5. And one thing, when it comes to just making sure structure, because I know our last meeting, you guys named all the student-led organizations, all the family and parent-led organizations, all the community-led organizations. It's a lot. So it's really big to streamline, hence wanting to bring in student voices into an already organized body. But when it comes to our parent work group, this is not going to be a monthly meeting. It's going to be a quarterly meeting with our parents to give them updates and vice versa. So that gives us time to take in their needs and what they're seeing, and gives us that 3 months to really work with it versus that every month meeting with parents, there might not be as much feedback. So I do want to make sure I'm giving parents space enough to assess, to evaluate, to visit schools, talk to their students, engage with the community, and vice versa for us as well. So I'm looking to meet with this parent work group quarterly. So if you know some parents who have not applied and they're very interested, the application does close on the 10th. And regarding the selection committee, you all would receive an email from myself or either Caress, say the next 48 today?
Next 48 hours.
Next 48 hours.
So just to make sure I got everyone, I have myself, Malcolm Kamika, Ms. Walker, Sean Lamb, and Lena Espinoza on that. And just background on where we're at right now for the parent selection group. We have nearly 300 applicants. I think my last count was at 272 parents. And we've had several who have applied since reopening in just this past week. We have every school has representation except for Lake Forest, JC Rowe, and College Park. So I will be working with those 3 schools specifically to see if we can get some more parent representation and applicants in those schools, so that we do have someone who's interested in representing it in all of those pools. And there's a lot of was a place for comments left on the application. So even if the parents aren't selected, I want to talk with Mr. Johnson, and I want to reach out to all the parents who applied and see if we can work on addressing their individual concerns or questions that they did put into that application. Because just because you're not selected, I mean, we only have 30 slots out of nearly 300 applicants. We still want to address your concerns, your issues, and have you offer your help and your assistance however they may be able in those different instances. So parents, please do, if you're listening, continue to apply, and we'll send out that link again on social media this week as well.
So, want to give you guys the update for Pro Novel. After what turned into our fact finding, because again, was not aware that it was already within in our school district and in our library. For those who have not been here, Pro was a novel that was introduced it was already within our school system, come to find out. However, there's an NEA grant that would allow for 250 copies of Crow to come into our schools and to really support that initiative with support the visiting of the author of Crow, Barbara Wright. When we received the NEA grant or knowledge of it, it came through our curriculum and instruction and our communication and outreach before it reached me, and it came with concerns. So part of the concerns that it came with was just, one of the major ones was just the identity of the author being a white woman writing from the lens of a black boy, and those things that we addressed until we found out that it was already within our school system. So we had to just take a few steps back. And what we decided, because we never took ownership of NEA grant, and New Hanover County Schools never decided to push forward with the book, we did make the decision to leave that at a school level. So any school administration that wants to take on Crow, the district has committed to supporting each of those teachers with the curricular resources needed. There are several schools who have elected to have the author Barbara Wright to come after school hours this is a meet and greet via Zoom, if I'm not mistaken. Don't have too many details on that, but that's an option. So I do want to give you an update. New Hanover County Schools did not say no or cancel any visit because of the author's identity. All right, New Hanover County Schools never had ownership of the program to have the authority to cancel. But what we will do, because the book is already in our schools, is to support our teachers as they're pushing it out into the classrooms if that's what they choose to do. I do want to leave space for any, and I see a lot of head. You guys are some subject matter experts too, so any feedback, I want to leave the floor open. Any comments, any questions regarding Crow? But I just want to give you guys the update, yes.
Because I look at it as more than just a conversation, it's a conversational piece.
Yeah.
And when you add the supplemental text to it, so that was my biggest thing from the last time. It's been used since
2012.
A long time.
Yeah.
And so I know it's being brought up now, but it's a lot of connections that can be made with this one book, even though it does have the perspective of an author. But that's a conversation. If we limit the thinking of our children, then how do we expect them to think?
Yeah.
And so when we try to put guardrails up because somebody may have this perspective from this certain viewpoint, you got to be able to question it. So that was just my point of view. Like, I don't think that anything, when we look at K-12 Rising, it informed a lot of people about 1898, and it was written by a white guy, and it's a fictional tale.
Yeah.
But that was how a lot of people became aware. So when we shouldn't limit literature
And
in
that's
any account.
Yeah, and that's the biggest goal. The goal is we're never going to limit. But as part of this office, I had to do my due diligence on every book, on anything that comes to my office. And does it get uncomfortable? It could be, and it will. But this is a space where I want to step to where we can have those crucial and, oftentimes may be seen as controversial, difficult conversations with the respect that we're all here to seek understanding. We're not here to prove each other wrong. We're not here to push a personal agenda. Right now the students are our stakeholders.
Yeah.
So I don't want to play into anything that's not our students being our primary focus. So let's be clear. Any text that comes to the district, I'm going to do my due diligence on. And if need to, we'll convene a book study. If need to, we'll go a little bit further. But in this instance, which is really unique, that was already into the New Hanover County school system, we decided that the best approach is to support the teachers who want to roll it out. Are we good?
I would trust them to be able to make those calls.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Me too.
And that's the part. We trust our administrators.
Right.
They know they know directly what the capacity of their teachers and their students are. And I just want to support them any way I can with the resources. And that's the district. So I've already talked to curriculum and instruction. Like, the district wants to support resources for teachers who elect into that. All right, what we all came here for. I want to leave the remaining of the time, and if it doesn't go to 6 o'clock, that's fine too. I know you guys want to stay here to 6:30 with me. But I want to talk to you guys, just conversation. Any questions that you have for me, because I know as you guys ask questions, I'm going to have questions, because a lot of this role, I'm learning. And I will always be a learner, and I'm an educator. I'm fresh out the classroom, and that's what I love about having this opportunity, because I'm still very much so close to the classroom, and I'm here to learn, and I'm here to learn from you all, so Forest Hills is my home. Forest Hills is where I got my roots. So I want to start with you. Do you have any questions of how this office can work on behalf of your students or all students, or lay it on?
I just want for us to have a north, like a goal, a clear goal that we can, and the roles of these people that is coming here and committing their time to something that has a result, and we're working, because we have had like 4 or 5 different approaches since everything has started, and we have started very good initiatives, and only one has taken a good place, like the student voice, and that was pushed by only almost one person, and the other one's trying to follow her lead. But there are several other initiatives that we have, like working on all the work that we have been done through the years. And I just want to know are we gonna take those up, or we have new goals that it's okay to? I just want to know, figuring it out, delegating this assignment. I love I am very task-oriented.
Yeah.
I want to have this task, working for creating this parent group. That's something I can do. I understand I can support. What is the next task that we want to put, or the big goal that we have, and making like the action steps and creating, delegating assignments and having due dates. That's the way I work, and I feel useful. Sometimes I feel like I'm not giving my best here because, I don't know how to help.
Okay, so change of plans. I think it's important to know what everyone's area of interest is as it relates to this work. When it comes to EDI work, and instead of doing the Q&A, we can still do the Q&A, but I think it's important for me to know what part of this work you're passionate about. So when it comes to pushing out tasks, I don't want to, because you're here because you're passionate about this work. So I don't want anything that I ask of you guys to feel daunting. I want it to be in line with your passion or your interest or something you want to develop and grow more in. So if you just need a few moments to think, I would definitely want to just take some notes of like, what are your personal areas of interest as it relates to this work, so I can know how to, to task manage. And that's anybody's open for it. Anybody can speak first. And just give me your name so I can write it down.
I'm just going to say, and we'll talk about that later too, but as a board, this is a board committee, and as a board liaison to the full board, I think what I would like to start seeing happening is taking regular updates to the full board meetings. I know we haven't really done that generally as a board, depending on what we end up doing, but it would be nice to have a regular update to take to the full board in public setting, because I think that's something that we missed on, and the opportunity on, let's just say that. And so there's lots and lots of things I would like to do, but I will think about it and talk to you about it. But I'm only one person out of this committee, and I agree with what Lena was saying. I felt since I've been here, I feel like that's what I've been hearing. Like, we're dedicated to the work, but we want to know what we can do to make change. So that's all.
I really like that, Stephanie. Hi, Kirsten. And one thing that's on my mind, and it's based on what Lena was saying too, is sometimes it's hard to it's been hard to attach a goal to a shared understanding of a problem that we have to solve. So equity is not a problem that we have to solve, right? But if we were to look closely at information that our teachers tell us, that our communities tell us, we could begin to see where there's a need for us to put resources and energy to foster equity. Now that we have it up on the website, right, we have some shared values once that language is up there. So I would like to see us, I wouldn't say this is a passion of mine, my passion would be justice in the education sense for all kids, but I feel deeply that we need to start looking at our areas that need attention, and we've had a really hard time getting data to understand where the work needs to start happening immediately. And so we had a potential partnership with Cape Fear Collective, where they were willing to do some analysis with us. We actually had a memorandum of understanding with them, but it disappeared somehow. And yeah, so that's something that maybe you'd want to investigate, because they can help out. There's also a Center for Social Impact led by Chris Prentice at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, so here, our home university, where they have the capacity to analyze data. So if it's an analysis capacity, we've got partners who could help us.
And what's that UCW partner again?
That is Chris Prentice at the Center for Social Impact.
Model professors.
Yeah, exactly. He's a professor of public administration. Is that right,
Center for
Stephanie?
Social Impact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris
Yeah.
Prentice.
Prentice, got it.
Prentice. And Cape Fear Collective too. So we've got partners who will help us with the analysis, the dissemination, and the sense-making activities. Cape Fear Collective and Center for Social Impact work with groups publicly to help them think about what their data are telling them. So that problem may be solved. The issue is data sharing, I think.
Yeah.
And so we got to have some conversations about that, and perhaps build an appetite and a trust level for sharing data.
So that's where I can help also.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
Getting data.
Lena?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't think it's that people don't want to share. It's sometimes that we are asking for so many things at a given time because we don't have a unique focus. We have that, we need to have that idea that comes, I would think, from the strategic plan that comes from the board, something that goes in what we know, okay, from here we have a needs analysis, and then we take priority, good administration, like having this common goal, and from there we decide, okay, these are the factors that we think, then we go to the analysis of the data, and then we have work that we can actually do and crystallize on a solid project that has an outcome 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, but having this north.
So to Lena's point, we should probably, when our sessions, look at our strategic plan,
Well,
because there are a
right.
lot of stuff outlined in there that we could start out from.
Yeah, we do, I brought it up, and our strategic plan has student voice. It says, how to have collaboration between equity teams and the district-wide Students' Voice Initiative. It has heritage language. It has a lot, to your point. Maybe it's like spread out, but it has equity and AIG, and then it has increasing access to special education.
Probably a lot of things we have already been working on.
Right,
And,
right.
and it's actionable stuff too, and reportable to the board with timelines. So, I mean, that's our roadmap right
Yeah,
there.
so that's a good starting point, because it is what the board agreed that we could make an impact on.
And our biggest issue always has been not that we don't work, is that we work in so many directions,
Right,
that we don't
right.
see short-time outcomes that make us feel good about the work that we are doing. So if we can take that priority, whatever the things we're already working on, those are good to start with, but we need to start it and finish it.
Yeah.
But not only do we need to start and finish and actually have action plans, when we start looking at, we have to change the narrative. We should not, if we're an equity work group and we're looking at equity, we got to communicate equity. And when we start labeling, or we start naming schools, or we start having all of these, different grades or these different systems, or we start naming out teachers and we naming out students, you got to think about it. When you name a particular school in one area and you name a certain, there's a connotation to that. And so we can't talk about equity work group if we don't label like what it is. Like, it is different for the students that are in the system when they look a certain way and the outcome that's going to happen to them between other students in the system. They could have the same charges, a student at Harvard, let's be honest, and a student at Hanover, the same drug charges, but it may be two different outcomes based on the neighborhood or the family that you go around. So when we talk about narratives and when we talk about equity, you have to give a communication narrative. And so it does not limit, it shouldn't be a limitation or a certain connotation when you name a particular school, because the same issues, it happen in the same households, it's just dealt with in different ways. And so that is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about changing that narrative, because whether I go to Rachel Freeman or I go out here to Coddington, I need to be able to know that I want to be perceived as a student in the same manner. And so if you're not going to be perceived as a student or a teacher, all this work that we're talking about, all the strategic plan, everything else, that is null and void.
So this was really important. So Kamika, you suggested something last year when we were putting together our goals, really in line with this, talking about let's not just be satisfied with the data we're currently collecting. Like, we could do an audit when somebody gets in trouble at school, what are the consequences, and break that down by the school they go to, by different social address characteristics of the child and the teacher. What else? You've had a lot of good ideas.
I don't know. I mean, but one of my biggest things, because I'm gonna be honest with you, the last time I looked at data, when I looked at the statewide data plan and I looked at behavior data for, not behavioral, but discipline offenses for the grades 9 through 12. The biggest offense is drug offenses. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody has that conversation. Whether it's prescription drugs, whether it is narcotics, whether it is those students who are getting arrested on a daily basis and then we find them out on the news. And so we got to think about all of those students from last week or 2 weeks ago, those were New Hanover County school students.
Yep.
They were supposed to be in school. Some are dead and some are in jail. And so, but my whole thing is, all of them were New Hanover County school students. So when we sit there, we eliminate. Same thing happened when you have students leaving New Hanover County schools and then you have them going to Cape Fear Community College for the adult high school program. Do you think about that? So when we talk about student voice, you can't leave out student voice that leaves the system. And so you got to understand why they're leaving the system. So that was one of the things. But when you have drug offenses, So let's use that because that's the biggest thing in New Hanover County schools when we talk about discipline for 9th through 12th grade. What are the outcomes for a black student and a white student? What are the outcomes for a white student at Harvard and a white student at Ashland? And we know we may not want to outline, but let's say some of those schools that have the higher drug offenses are not the schools that you think have them. And so it's not fair. It's not fair to keep labeling schools certain ways or having certain criteria, and we're supposed to be an EDI. So that is my passion, to make sure that if you're gonna put it out on the table for Hanover, you sure better have Target out there beside it. And so that is like, when we talk about data being transparent, you have to be transparent on every lens. And just be fair to the students that are going to that school, and they shouldn't be labeled by the school that they go by and have a certain connotation attached to it.
And spot on. And who are the actors in that? And that's one thing that's being, as a K through 12 student, it wasn't the school district that taught me the old nickname for Rolling Rice. It wasn't the school district that taught me what Hanover was like. It's also community perception and how those schools are talked about in the media, you know, how they're talked about amongst us, and how they're talked about in our personal lives with our friends. You know, so part of shaping and changing that narrative is also being accountable when the cameras and the mics are not on. You know, because that's where true change shifts. Because we can say it here, but when we get home and when we get into our spaces, you know, so how can we leverage our places of privilege, our positions of authority in spaces outside of maybe employment to push that as well? Because that is vital. You know, that is so vital, especially when you go into so many. Being from Wilmington, North Carolina, when I go into Rachel Freeman, I see my people. And when I say my people, I see people that there's a strong connection, we are blood related. You know, so their educational outcomes are super important to me, and what does that look like for them? So a part of this work is just really just recognizing that's why I want all these chairs filled, especially with community stakeholders, because we have to change this narrative for so many different, we have to attack it from so many different directions. But I'm gonna just be quiet so we keep some more people going.
Looking at some of the things, and I listened a lot. I wanted to be quiet today and make sure I listened to everyone, because I listened to Kamika last time when she talked about Crow, and I came back from what I originally stated and said I valued that perspective and I hadn't thought. So there is so much opportunity for growth in this room, and there's always opportunity for growth, and I try to soak up as much as what is had from everyone who speaks, because we all have individual, differing, and diverse lived experiences. My lived experience, even though me and Kamika may be of the same skin tone, we have totally different lived experiences, totally different perspectives. So I always like listening to her talk and hearing what she's saying, especially as someone who's lived in the community longer than I have and has more of a background and understanding of the community than I do as a transfer community member. But one of the things I would like to see, and I think a problem facing us, is the table. We come to these meetings, and again, I see this room shrink and shrink and shrink, and people just, either whether it's personal lives, professional lives, and I understand, and I'm not faulting anyone for making a decision to step away from this work or to step away from the responsibilities, but you can't not say that that doesn't hurt us when we're looking to make momentum and we're looking to make those changes and we're looking to bring in those other additional lived experiences. Like, there are so many questions that came to me last month about what's going on in the schools, and though I work with the school district, I am not in the schools, so I don't have that lived experience anymore as a staff member who's on the front lines with the students day to day. So those questions I don't feel comfortable asking. And I was looking to friends who are in the schools, but they're not here anymore. So I think one of the problems we have, and one of the things I want to look at, is how can we recruit more people. And it's not just our staff members, it's our community members. We had some really strong community members in the beginning, and they've trickled off as well, whether it's because of the inaction or the inability to move our work at the pace that we want to see it moved at. They're no longer here, and I'm missing those valuable perspectives and those valuable outlets that can help me in my work in equity. Because again, yes, I'm a Black bisexual person, but I'm still not where I want to be in my pursuit for equitable work. Not when it comes to looking at different ability levels, not when it comes to looking at language equity. There is so much I'm still trying to learn, but I'm running out of my resources here at this table to help me and to guide me in appropriate language and appropriate words and how to address issues and how to call myself out when I falter in my work and
Yes, yes.
Just say accomplice.
Accomplice work. However you say that. So I would like to see this table grow again. I would like to see more perspectives from teachers, more students, more community members, and I want them to stay. I want them to see the work that we do. And I listened to Lena say, she said she feels like the only thing we that came was a student voice, and Casey Smith did a phenomenal job, like pushing and pushing and pushing that. But I also feel like she pushed so much of it, gave so much of herself that she's burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I want there to be more of us here committed to this work so that not one person is burning out on it. Again, bisexual person. I want to see more on LGBTQIA. I want to have the district make stances and make commitments in months other than just June 1st on where they stay and how they work to protect our students. I want to hear more from Jarrell on Title IX and how Title IX intersects with the work that we're doing here. And I know he's doing a phenomenal job, and he's worked with a lot of our advisors of our LGBTQIA groups in the schools. But I want to see those advisors at this table talking, because they're in the schools working with those students. I know when I was reading through some of the parents' applications for the EDI work group, there was a lot about bullying and not feeling that their children are safe, and then there's there were a lot of LGBTQIA parents. I want to see more LGBTQIA parents sitting at this table, because I definitely think that there is this notion to where our equity work got steamrolled by whatever CRT is. So now they think we're just CRT, Marxist, or communist agendas, and that's not what it is. It's not just a black and white conversation. There is so much more that goes to the work that we are doing. When you're looking at ability level, you're looking at gender, sexuality, you're looking at economics and access and lived experience. And I love the term lived experience because it sums it up. It's like we want to make sure, despite whatever your lived experience is, you have the access to the things that you need. I'm also passionate about, I go to these schools. We were just at Murray today, and then we were at Bellarmine before that. Where are our black educators? Where are they at? Where are our brown educators? Where are they at? My daughter is in kindergarten, and I looked at like the class roll of her teachers, and if I keep her at the school she's at right now, there's zero chance that she will have a black and brown teacher. And we all know the statistic that students of color who have a minority teacher by the time they're in third grade are at a more higher level for achieving success. So if there is not an influx of teachers of color at the school my daughter is in, she will not stay there. We will go where I can find her educators of color to teach her. So I want to see our district representation of our educators of color to meet and to match what our demographics are. So that's just some share from me.
I just want really quick, Mrs. Berry.
I would like to hear from Sean.
Just make sure I get all the voices.
Sean.
So I just want to echo a bit of caress. I'm Gail. Yes. So what brings me here is a desire for the queer voice, for the LGBTQIA community to have a voice. I didn't feel like I had a voice in my school life, and I think it's important for that voice to be in this room. And maybe I don't say it loud enough, but I think it's important for that voice to be happening. I do feel that we very often get so focused on the black and white issue that we forget that there are queer kids, and we forget that there are kids of disability or other abilities that need to have their voice also be heard loudly. And I fully understand that the place where the fire seems the brightest is where you work the hardest when there's a fire. And maybe all of them are just so on fire that we just keep looking at where's the brightest fire and how do we put the most water on that spot and hope that it trickles down. But trickle-down economics doesn't work, and neither does trickle-down equity. It just doesn't trickle down to everyone. And so I think that's important. To Lena's point, it gets very frustrating when we don't have achievable goals, and when we are looking at things that are so large that we don't ever get to the point that we're celebrating successes. And I think to Caressa's point, that's why we see people leaving the table. It is hard to continue to do work where we don't see measurable outcomes happening. And while we do have things that we can celebrate along the way in this work and in the work that we've been doing together for some time, it is difficult to keep showing up at the table and feeling like our successes are minimal and the work is remaining to be huge. And so finding ways that we can be a part of something that has attainable goals and things that we can see happening along the way. And I just keep coming back to this thing, and I keep writing it down on my piece of paper here, so I'm going to share it with you. And it comes out of what I heard down the way here from the student voice, which is, how can we be dirty feet accomplices? How can we be accomplices that truly have our feet dirty and our hands dirty, that we are in it doing the work alongside and not just sitting back and waiting for it to happen, but how are we being dirty hands and feet doing the work?
I would love to hear from Sean. Since Sean, passion is special education and that, because that we're talking about all the different aspects of equity.
Right.
I think she's a lot to say.
Well, there's a lot of intersectionality. If you have a welcoming environment for kids with disabilities, it will probably extend to other kids too. And we all know that that black and brown children are disproportionately put into special education, which in many districts, including ours, is segregated. Our children they don't have access to the same education that a child will who is not disabled. And that is, that's tough, and it's also not compliant with the idea. And so one question that Dr. LaShawn Smith had us asking ourselves, in the last couple of years was, how does this show up in our policies, and how does it show up in our practices? And we often, as parents of children with disabilities, see practices that make advocating for our kids to get into a less restrictive environment challenging. And our job should be to flag those practices and try to change them. And so I think that will help in some intersectionalities. I also think that, there's a lot of data on how to do that. And a lot of that, creating inclusive cultures does come back to things like instructional practices, which I know we're working on, and student voice, which I know it has been one of our big successes. But I guess my biggest recommendation is like, how do we collaborate so we're not the only ones doing the work, so that we can help enable the work. And I think that the work group is a mechanism to do that, but we also have other mechanisms to do that, which are maybe just, not being used as effectively as they could. And I think that's what you were trying to kind of pull the thread on last month when we talked.
And that's what I can share with you guys. You know, when it comes to, I make it very known, especially at our senior cabinet meetings. You know, equity belongs, this EDI work belongs to everybody. I am not the sole proprietor of this type of work. You know, so when I talk to communications, when I talk to human resources, when I talk to student support, when I talk to technology, when I talk, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Who did I mention? Finance, transportation. You know, equity is in all, it is embedded. So I don't own this work. You solely do not own this work. You know, so I'm very clear in how I spread that message. But the biggest thing for me, especially when we talk about intersectionality is our tool. It's that big joker that allows us to hit many birds with one stone. You know, and that's just from our own personal lived experience. That's just from our pedagogical practice. That's how we engage in our community, of any policy and procedure. And I can tell you right now, from a leadership standpoint, coming through New Hanover County Schools, I had an older sibling that lived with us who he had cerebral palsy and went to New Hanover. Coming up, I'm the youngest of three brothers, and I was literally two-parent household, traditional home, and even then, every day, and coming to school, it felt like I was drowning. And I never had the language of to why. I have decent circumstances at home. I have loving parents, mom, dad, both present, you know, happy in one home, 2 income. What could go wrong? But one thing I recognized in this task for Greater Wilmington, I had no representation, and not black representation. Being a black queer boy coming through Mary Washington Howe, Forest Hills, Williston, and that's why I want to stick in the middle school, which is why a lot of my pedagogical practice had been in middle school, because there's a big social emotional and identity piece that comes from that time period that can ruin a child if ignored. So a part of my equity work in this, I say it and I say, seeing the students in the middle. Who are our kids in the middle? Because we do have programs in place for our extremely gifted students, and then we do have programs in place for our students who have other abilities that need additional support, and we have intervention in place for our students who are high flyers with a lot of behavioral issues. Those are programs that are in place, but there are no explicit programs for students in the middle. You know, what does it look like for me to be seen in my classroom? Because when I am traumatized and when I felt triggered, it didn't show in me disrupting my class. It showed up in me, literally in my mind, I'm present, but I can't hear because I'm so focused on how am I being perceived by how am I walking? Am I talking okay? You know, am I spending too much time talking to my 2 girl best friends? Like, you know, how does my identity, so yeah, there's a group of students and it transcends race, and it transcends SES, and it transcends abilities, and it transcends language. So it's really important for us as a committee to focus and live in the intersectionality. I think if we make it a commitment to live, I know we have individual things that we're passionate about, but how does your passion connect with Sean's? And vice versa. That way we can have a streamlined agenda to focus on what we can control, which will bring me back to my very last thing. I know 6 o'clock is the tangible thing that I want to do for this community and I want us to walk away with is a framework. What does an equity, diversity, inclusion framework look like? Curriculum instruction has a framework that is informed by the strategic plan. We do not have a framework that's informed by the strategic plan. So as I close our task, and I want to say it now because it's documented, is we want to start building a EDI framework so schools and other stakeholders can look, this is what the expectation for the district. Equity, diversity, and inclusion looks different at every single campus, but one thing that's a constant is that framework that they're pulling from. So the task at hand is to build a framework. So regardless of who's sitting in this seat, if the seat is empty, there's not 6 months of what are we doing? Well, let's wait for SME.
Before we go, can I bring up that we do have an Educator of Colors network for Southeastern North Carolina?
Say it out loud.
Educators of Color, that's through UNCW. It is, the work groups are advocacy, retention, recruitment, and support. Because we can talk about educators of color and they come in all shades.
Yeah.
From Caucasian, we have Latinx, we have, African Americans, we have blacks, we have just everyone represented in the Southeastern District. But it is coming out of the Drive Task Force and the Pep-C Task Force, where you have looked at, I know that the new teacher pay scale has been implemented when we start looking at equity EDI goals, things like that. But it is through UNCW. It came out of, I want to say PDS, but I may be mistaken. But I could send out information to the group. But there is an Educators of Color network that is out there to recruit teachers to come into education. But the education pool is low. So you got to not only recruit teachers to get into education, you got to recruit teachers to come to this area. Why would anybody want to come?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not from here. So that has to be something that is enticing. So, and it's not necessarily even having a black educator, and I'm just say this, yeah, it is, research does show, but is it that person gonna still connect with the child? And so you can have a white educator that, or a Latin educator, or an Asian that connects to the child. So that's what that connectivity aspect of, because I'm gonna shout out Jessica Elliott at Hanover.
Yeah.
She got my child out of school, and I have to appreciate her every day. And
So you want cultural competency.
yes, that's what you want. You want cultural competence, and you just want that person to be able to be there. And so when we start looking at it, we got to look at it from that lens point too, because we may not be able to attract, because the beach is not always attractive to some. So we may not be able to attract certain people to come to this area based on the cost of living or the different things, because it's high. If you can't necessarily afford it, so we have to think about it different ways on how that recruitment is going to look.
And I agree with that too, but I guess I'm just looking at it from that perspective of representation. I need my child to have that representation within her school. Because if she's just seeing one thing in there, the world isn't that.
But she knows you.
But I'm not just enough.
So let me also jump into that.
Especially as a single mother, I'm not just enough, because she's not seeing any high-profile black men, or she's not seeing any educated brown men. Whether that's, again, and I'm not just saying black, I'm saying like any different colors. Like that representation, I feel, needs to also be present in our schools.
Well, yeah.
And then not all of our students has a caress clack for a mother. So I'm thinking of what they would need and what they need to be able to aspire to as well.
That's
And there was a point coming down.
That is, as a single mother also. And that's why I put my kids in spaces where I was. I worked in the type of school in what I wanted my children to see. So that was my selection. My selection is high minority Title I school. And so when I came back to New Hanover County, I worked at Wilson. I worked at Virgo. My students, my children. So then my students become my children because I see them as those images. And so teachers do it all the time that may not look like me. They choose where they work. And it doesn't necessarily look like the school I work in. And so that's my choice. And so that's what I put my children on. Now, did they suffer something? They might have, but they gained a lot. And so I had those experiences of LaTasha Howard at Williston, of Sean Gordon, Veronica. So there are teachers and there are spaces out there. And you have people at Gregory. I have people at Virgo. And so we have the choices of what we want and where we want. Necessarily that's not in the district, but that goes again to the narrative of the school.
So really
You
quick.
say choices, though, but
really quick.
do all parents have those choices?
Correct.
But it's based on, we got
Yeah, really quick. Yeah, I want to wrap this up because I know that's a deep conversation. I would love to join y'all after I let these folks go home. I want to weigh in on that. So we're not stopping it. We're pausing it because I want to weigh in.
I wanted to say I'm 100% behind the framework, and I'll
Okay.
support that. And there's a little nagging concern in my head. I don't know if it's in anybody else's head too. We just worked on one last year. Not necessarily a framework for the district and the schools, but we put together how the working committee was going to work with this committee and what we would be doing, and documents would move up. Do you remember all the
Do we know where
arrows,
that's
everybody?
housed at right now?
Pardon me?
Do we know where his house at?
I'm not saying that you want to use it. I just want to say, in my
Yeah, it's in the
experience, you can keep us really busy making
Okay.
things. But my question is, what lasts in this district? And so as of yet, I have never heard the superintendent say, I charge this committee with coming up with a framework. And I will make sure that in my leadership role, schools understand that the framework pertains to them. I think the board, and we've worked on this, right? If the board had a policy that says, this is New Hanover Schools' vision for equity, and we charge the superintendent with coming up with procedural and implementation plans to make this happen, then I would trust that the thing that we're going to do this year might last beyond this year.
So just to give you some background, some
Yeah.
context, that chart from Dr. Faust
Yeah.
came to me. That's what he explicitly told me that we need for this department, and this is what I'm pushing out to you all. So the charge is there, and if we didn't make it clear, the charge, an EDI task force. So in the meantime, what I would love to do, and would love you guys to do, maybe start some preliminary research looking at neighboring school districts, Big 12 school districts that may have a framework or some existing frameworks, and see what's out there. And once we see what's out there, we can see what we've already created. So that way we're not reinventing the wheel, we can just maximize our time. And then the final thing before I close out, my charge to you all personally. If you cannot be here and you cannot make it, have someone in your seat. Have someone to come on your behalf. And also invite someone. I am opening up the applications again, so tell a friend to bring a friend. If you cannot be here, have someone in your seat to speak on your behalf. Because to Carissa's point, I don't want to see it shrink below what we have right here. All right, and there's people who want to be here, students who want to be here who couldn't be here. But tell a friend to bring a friend, carpool, all that beautiful stuff. Hell, if you can bring some friends in your vehicle with parents' permission, school approval, safely do that. But make sure, dot my I's and cross my T's.
Yeah.
I want us here. I want us in community. I love this conversation, and I want to close it out. And I want to close it out with some optimistic closure. All right, somebody did that to a meeting one day, and it was probably the most positive experience I had in a meeting. And when we do optimistic closure, it's just something positive going on in your life right now that's not necessarily EDI related. Something that when you get here, you're on the way looking forward to some leftovers that you have and picking up where you left off with some Netflix. Anything that you're looking forward to, anything that just brightened up your day today or you're anticipating to brighten up your weekend, let's talk about it. So for me, my nephew just left this weekend. We had him the whole entire weekend. He is literally like the light of my soul. I love this little guy so much. So anytime he's around, he's my light. So if you want to see pictures and videos of KJ after this, please come find me. I have plenty of pictures. So
How old is he?
What was that?
How old is he?
Oh, he just turned 3 September 30th. So KJ, if you're listening to this, happy belated birthday. Just turned 3. So we're in our 3s, and he'll be moving here permanently October 8th. So yes,
That's wonderful.
looking forward to having him here. We can go each way.
Do you want to start at the end?
Oh.
Come around? Hi.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll come back to you.
I have mine ready.
Okay.
My daughter got engaged in May, so I'm planning a wedding. So it's gonna take me
very
a
good.
year. I don't know if I should be happy or stressed, but I'm very excited,
Very well.
helping her figure out all this stuff, and that's a new thing for me. So I love every minute of it.
Because you're pressed.
Doing some DIY home renovations, and I pulled up the final carpeted space in my house
Nice.
yesterday.
Right.
So,
Wow.
Goodbye asthma.
sorry.
Goodbye,
asthma.
Yes.
Life changing.
Mr.
Anybody?
Oh, okay. We'll go to Sean. I'll go last, so go ahead, Sean.
Oh.
Anything.
Anything. Yeah, I've got something cute. It's really heartwarming. Henry's principal and his special education teacher have invited him to raise the flag every morning.
very
And so
nice.
he and one of his friends, you know, before school starts, we drop him off early, but before school starts, he gets to raise the flag, and he's very, very proud of himself for doing that. Yeah, it's very sweet.
Great.
Well, that's awesome.
Come on, Gail.
So, yeah, every Tuesday I have Taco Wish Tuesday at my house and invite people who are interested in creating an inclusive church. And so it's one of those things I always look forward to, Taco Wish Tuesday.
Taco Wish Tuesday. I like that.
Please come.
Yeah, I was going to say, my point of optimism now is I might have plans for it.
Do come.
Yeah, it's you, Kirsten.
Yeah, oh, that was me, that was legitimate.
Oh, that was it? Well, all
I mean, I
right.
had something else until I heard that opportunity, so all right.
Charlotte.
It's your turn, right? I'd have to say, gosh, every day is just so hard sometimes, it seems here lately. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing that I always look forward to is going home is seeing my husband, because he's always, I don't think I could do half of anything that I do if it wasn't for him. And so I'm gonna shout him out because, you know, our hashtag is "till the wheels fall off." So every day when I have my hard times, I always think of him and I'm like, "Till the wheels fall off, let me keep moving, till the wheels fall off." So that's what I look forward to every day.
I'm just really excited about this weather. It just feels like fall, and we made pumpkin muffins, which we make every fall as a family, and this weather gets me so excited because I always have great family time in the fall.
Yesterday, I got to spend time with my daughter. I went to the Buys and Sellers section at Cape Fear Museum, and she actually wanted to go with me, but I knew it was a catch. I didn't know what it was. So we went there, and we had a good time, and then we became tourists downtown. So we went to Kilwins, we went to Gems for Us, I think that's the name. And I found out that Wake and Bake is open downtown on Thursdays through Sundays from 7 to 4. And so, but we had a good time yesterday, and I think that was like the little things like that we take for granted. And so that was my positive moment.
Was my turn?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess I could say today is the official start of the countdown to me being a half a century old. So,
Very well.
So I'm counting down. So I'm not coming to work that week, so I probably won't be at the meeting.
You may just cancel because of your birthday. Who knows? Well, awesome.
Oh, you can skip me. That's
No,
fine.
you don't.
No. I was just saying I got inspired. So I would want to say, shout out to my support people, which are my family. I don't have a very extended family, but my family is very close and they are very supportive. And it's tough. If y'all hadn't noticed being on the school board lately, but that makes me more appreciative of my husband and my daughter and my son. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. We can end this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll send you an email. I joined the church here.
I did, I'm just like brainstorming.
Raise the other thing. Probably.
I wanted to ask.
So I started too, yeah. It just makes it too hard. So we joined in a physical church, it's great, and then stick around.
Okay.
And it was
And
But I wasn't sure.
Okay.
What is that for the transition? Segregated
that was that one
day
question.
of the week.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that?
I was gonna call you.
Of what things should be.
Of what that looks like.
Do nothing. I was gonna call you, I need a DJ.